Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome. I'm SC, and this is Divine Talks, where we dive into and talk about all things spiritual and divine. For today's video, I'll be sharing with you a beautiful channeled message from Quo, channeled through on October 6th, 2002. Quo is part of a higher density group consciousness associated with the Law of One material that offer us wisdom and spiritual guidance rooted in love and in service to others. Think of them like a loving cosmic big brother or sister. They are channeled through the amazing work of LL Research, and I'll include a link to their website and archives in the description box below if you feel guided to explore more of their transmissions yourself. The reading today is about the power of thoughts and beliefs and how the words we speak to ourselves and the images they create within us ultimately shape our self-image. And since beliefs can change, this means our self-image can also be reshaped. By changing our self-talk, the words in our minds, and our personal mythology, we can consciously create and transform the inner image of ourselves and how we see ourselves and the world around us. As I read Quo's response, please only take what resonates with you, and feel free to leave what does not. After the reading, I'll share my own reflections and through my perspective break down some key points and explore what their teachings might mean for us in our everyday life. So get comfortable and settle in, take a deep breath, and let's begin. We are those known to you as the principle of Quo, and we greet you in the love and in the light of the one infinite creator in whose service we are. We thank you each for arranging the details of your life so that you are able to join this circle of seeking. We thank you for the opportunity to share our thoughts. We are most happy to do so with the request, as always, that each of you takes what you feel is good from those opinions which we share, and by all means leave all of those things which do not seem to be as fair to you behind, without a second thought. This will enable us to feel that freedom which comes from being a neighbor and a friend whose opinion is worth sharing, without feeling that we have represented ourselves to you as authorities or teachers. For truly we are as you, those who walk upon a path and those who reach out in service to others. We have a tremendous sea of things in common. The creation that we share is one. You asked this day about the power one's self-image has to affect one's life. Indeed, this is an endlessly interesting question because it revolves without end in terms of the effect of feedback and how the echo of feedback never actually ends, so that not only is there a feeling of progression to the energy of one's being as one experiences the illusion of time, there is also that sense of each moment being its own perfected entity, which is established as the truth of that moment and which moves out endlessly into the creation of the Father as a perfect offering of that moment, that time, that space, and that truth, so that the truth is always coming from you in its perfect form at the same time that it is forever in development in the process of birth to the ever new moment. The one known as Jay has suggested that it is quite possible that the experience or the illusion that each of you shares at this time is one which has been assisted or enhanced, shall we say, by those beings of higher densities who have compassion upon those who have gone through a tremendous amount of change. In this supposition, the one known as J was indicating that, indeed, perhaps the much talked about latter days, rather than being imminent, have actually already occurred. And were this to be so, this suggestion is that all of those who indeed did graduate at the time still might have experienced so much trauma at the changes made at the shift between the old world and the new that the souls of those within this room and perhaps within this planet were placed, as it were, upon a stage that was created specifically as a hologram, substituting for the world which was the old world. This new world, then, would be a world which was constructed to be a safe haven for those positive entities whose work was done within third density, but who were not quite ready yet to spread their wings and accept the full light of fourth density without their physical vehicles. We do not state that this is true, but we do state that this is a wonderful way to envision the consensus reality which you face at this time, because it is efficacious in allowing you to see that you have an enormous amount of power over your consciousness and the experiences of that stream of consciousness. Certainly, we can say that regardless of the model used to discuss the transition times into fourth density, the membrane between densities is semi-permeable, and increasingly so as the time moves from moon to moon and year to year. Already you have experienced a great deal of shifting and opening up of energies, of patterns changing, and these things have been experienced, not because necessarily they were chosen, but perhaps inadvertently, so that change has multiplied upon change, and it is easy to feel that one is completely unable to control one's life. However, we would suggest to you that the issue of control is a kind of seduction designed to limit the ability to envision and to dream when one is allowed to be cast loose from one's circumstances, so that one exists in that space between all things, between densities, between energies, in the water, shall we say, that the creation swims within. It can be seen that this between place is actually the womb within which the self is birthed from moment to moment, and as the self is birthed, so is the creation. It is difficult to grasp that one does create the stars, the bodies within the heavens, all of the amazing and cosmic structures of energy and balance that no one's mind in any density could actually grip, wield, and change, yet each of you, by the way he thinks of himself and the way he tells his story to himself, creates the stars of a certain color and in a certain order, creates a universe that wraps around him like a cloak and prepares him for that journey which, in his own mind, is the business of his life. Each of you has this kind of creatorship, and each is feeling this ability to change the feelings with which life is replete. Each has talked before this meditation began of ways in which the thoughts have been used to create a better environment for the self. The one known as Jim was speaking of how he had begun to realize that which he had told himself made a difference in how he felt. From the tiniest thing that you say to yourself to the largest, each word and each thought is an energy that has the power to create change in your consciousness and in the world around you. The more you are able to focus upon this power to speak truth, the more transparent the environment is to the echoes of new thoughts. The one known as R was creating lists of words that took power away and words that gave power, and they were words like follow or choose, I can't do it, or miracle. The possibilities within the mind that are allowed to the self become the possibilities that are possible within your world. If you can allow yourself the time and space to move within that closet of self and simply listen to the self as it is, the information that comes to you is that sense of self that has drifted beyond the campfire of everyday talk and moved into the cry of the wolf, the beaming of the stars, and the energy of the Great Mother and the light of eternity. What do you dream? What do you hope? We say to you as you dream, take that time in which you color your dreams with care and love and the self-respect that all dreams deserve. The ideals that seemed fair at earlier points in the life may indeed have become tarnished. They may even seem to have failed and to have become vitiated and destroyed by experiences which you have undergone. How much of disappointment within yourself is true, and how much of it is the tail end of other people's stories which they have told to you? The one known as T suggested earlier that there was a tremendous power in releasing all thoughts of forgiveness in a certain stubborn situation and moving instead to thoughts of forgetting completely the past. To this entity we say, these thoughts have the power to change the life. It is a sweet mystery, the sugar bear of truth, hiding in the forest of opinion, with the undergrowth of words and more words. Each word has its roots and its blossoms, and the words that you plant in the flower beds of your sentences, your thoughts, the things that you share with others have their own beauty, aroma, and color. We are not suggesting that your life should be a coloring book to dabble at on a day when there is nothing better to do, for we realize that each of you is moving very quickly through days that seem all too short, and we grasp the fact that it does not seem that there is a great deal of time to spend upon the details of each thought. each word used, and so forth. And yet we would suggest to you that any care that you can take with the things that you think to yourself about yourself will be rewarded, and this reward will echo and re-echo and spiral if you are able to continue to monitor your own inner conversations. In this instrument, for instance, there is a long-standing distortion towards self-criticism, and this is basically an internalizing of childhood voices that this instrument has heard in the past. In no case does this instrument have to continue hearing this particular voice, it being the voice of her parents, both parents having passed from your illusion. However, as is the case with most children, no matter how old the child gets, there lives within that mature person a tremendously powerful memory of every hurtful word that has ever been spoken to that child. Unfortunately, for the playful aspect of self, the serious aspect of living a life within the physical illusion sounds its steady toll of time and space and calls all to experience responsibility and accountability for the thoughts and desires of one's own heart. When the moment comes that you can see into this conversation that may have ancient and irrelevant voices within it, you will be more able not simply to silence those voices, but to lay them into an appropriate and loving place in deep memory with blessing and with love, so that you may indeed forget, not simply forgive the voices that would bring you down and make you feel small, but rather forget them. This forgetting and forgiving of the old voices can release a tremendous power of change within the life pattern. If you do not choose then to say to the self when a mistake is made, "Oh, you stupid person, you have made a mistake," then what would you choose to say instead? Is there indeed any dishonor in making an error? Is there a necessity to judge beyond the need to correct the error? For most entities there is. There's always the need to make a judgment. The reasons for this indeed would be the subject of another discussion, but for the entity within third density, the tendency is to make a judgment every single time an event occurs. Knowing this about yourself, then perhaps you can think upon what kind of judgments you would like for yourself to make. It may seem pretty obvious that it is not a good idea to tell the self that the self is stupid, or getting old, or losing memory, and yet each in this room has said these things to the self at various times. What would be your substitute for this self-comment? Perhaps the embracing of compassion for the self and a willingness to move on has more energy for the positive than any words that you might find to soften the blow of judgment. It is a difficult thing to grasp in the world of the mind where things seem so clear-cut, but in actuality your illusion is set up with some precision to prevent any entity from being correct for a very long time. The need of this illusion is fundamentally the need for confusion. Too much clarity within third density creates a pleasant and long third density. Each of you is experiencing the culmination of far more powerful ways of experiencing third density. These ways have been rough, and each trail has been mazed, and yet the progress that each of you has made is outstanding. In all of this confusion, each has found the end of a rainbow and is following that vision. We encourage more than anything else this basic faith in self that sees beyond the mistakes of the moment and trusts in the excellence of that self that lies within like an undiscovered country. Were this instrument never again to say to itself, "You're just not good enough," would she be good enough? Were the ones known as Jim never to say again, "I just can't remember like I used to," would he remember as he used to? Perhaps. But the words that truly hurt the self are the words of judgment that create a contraction and a sorrow within the heart, and so we encourage you to cease bringing sorrow to your own heart, for it is in no way necessary. Each lesson that comes before you has its learning curve. Each learning curve has many moments of seeming failure. Indeed, the only way to learn is to fail repeatedly in such a way that learning occurs. The mechanisms of learning are assisted not by resisting the pain of learning, but by speaking it, chanting it, expressing it, having a dance with it, so that there is a movement of energy and a lifting of the spirit that deals with whatever is being dealt with at the time. The one known as R said earlier, life is not about working, it is about playing, and this is a good sentence to use as an example of how you can speak to yourself in certain ways. All things take effort. Shall you call that effort work, or shall you call it play? Shall you call it walking, or shall you call it dancing? Shall you call it speaking, or shall you call it singing? Shall you define yourself as prose, or shall you allow yourself to be poetry? There is a way to play with the textures, qualities, and tonalities of life. In this playing, all of the forces of nature wait to play with you, and when the mind is released into this playing mode, there is a tremendous outburst of energy from angelic and from inner planes nature sources who are just waiting to play with anyone else who is also playing. For the dance is ongoing, and that which you are is that which moves into this dance, becomes part of this dance, and becomes the dance. What is your self-image? We ask each of you to define this for yourself at a time when you are simply contemplating what your myth of self is. As this instrument has said, she is a legend in her own mind, and each of you is that. Each of you is a story you've told yourself. It is not simply a birth, a childhood, an education, and a series of experiences as an adult. It is a story with shape and moods and energy and fire. That is, if you wish to tell yourself a story that has energy and fire. The one known as Jim can tell himself that he is cutting grass, or he can tell himself he is dancing with the devas. This instrument can tell herself that she is a bookkeeper, or she can tell herself that she touches people's lives with love. Each of you can look at the simple facts of the life and weave many different stories depending upon those things which are chosen to emphasize and those things which are forgotten and left behind. It is your world, and the possibilities of a world that is created just as you wish it are endless. Imagine the effect if more and more entities within your earth would truly, deeply, and honestly found that energy within, which is the energy of peace. That peace which passes all understanding. Have you considered why there is not peace within the world at this time? When there is not peace within the human heart, what story can the human race tell itself? Is there even a belief in the ideal of peace? Is there a willingness to know that peace is the truth and that strife is the illusion? This instrument and the one known as R earlier were working upon the words of a song. It seemed to this instrument at the time that the words were growing like grass, sprouting up and opening to the sunshine. What artful dodgers words are, slippery, forever changing, always shifting in their nuances and their tones. Words are difficult to use with absolute justice, and yet the power of each word is the power of the spirit of the concept. The power of concept is infinite. The power of belief is infinite. The beliefs that you have create themselves as true within your body, within your mind, and within your life. May you believe well. May you seek truly and deeply your own story. It is always our great privilege and pleasure to join you here. At this time, we shall take our leave of this instrument and this group. We leave each in the love and in the ineffable light of the one infinite Creator. Adonai, my friends, Adonai. And that concludes today's beautiful and insightful reading from Quo, as received and shared by LL Research. So, what can we learn from this? The power of our self-image and how it shapes our life is forever ongoing and can and does change throughout our life. Change is the always present constant, and in knowing that, we can avoid the temptation of the idea of control. Each of us and how we think of ourselves and the story we tell ourselves weaves the cloak of our own universe and shapes the journey of how we see our life. Each of us holds this power of creation, and we have all felt it in how it shapes our feelings and experiences. We can recognize the many ways our thoughts impact our daily lives, moment by moment, even in the difference it makes to simply change the words you speak to yourself. From the smallest phrase to the largest belief, every thought is an energy with the power to reshape your world. The more carefully and conscious you choose the words you give yourself and tell yourself, the more open your reality becomes in echoing your inner truth and landscape. What you allow your mind to believe becomes the very fabric of your world. Words are alive, and every word you use to yourself and to others carries beauty and power. So when we look at self-criticism and disappointment, how much of that is the echo of other people's stories told to you from long ago? The voices are often old, internalized from childhood, and no matter how old we are, they may still sting as it did when they were first spoken long ago. But these voices can be released, and when you recognize them for what they are, as outdated echoes, you can lay them to rest, bless them for what they were, and let them go. And not just forgiving, but also forgetting, and this simple act can free immense new energy in your life. Every soul tends to judge constantly in some way, and the key is to notice the judgments you choose. What if you replace the shame with a word of compassion and a willingness to move forward? Compassion carries way more energy than judgment ever could. Hold faith in yourself and trust that beyond mistakes lies the true brilliance of your being. The words that wound the most are those judgments that shrink the heart. Let them go, as they are not needed. Life itself is not work but play. It is a dance, and you are both the dancer and the dance. And in this playful mode, the key is not resist the pain, but to move with it so that energy transforms and the forces of nature join you. Angels, guides, and unseen friends rush forward to join the dance with you. So, what is your self-image? The myth of you. Each of you is a legend in your own mind, and you are the story you tell. And that story is unique and uniquely yours. It isn't only the facts of your life, like your birth, your education, your work, your hobbies, but the story that you choose to weave from them. You may tell yourself that you are painting, or working on spreadsheets, or touching lives with love, but ultimately it is your story, and the versions you choose create the world you live in. Now, imagine if more and more people choose to find the peace within themselves. If peace lived in the human heart, what story would humanity tell itself? And since conflict and strife is the illusion, wouldn't peace then be the truth? Belief shapes the body, mind, and the life we live and experience. So may you believe wisely, and may you write your story with truth, peace, and joy. Thank you for spending this time with me today and for opening your heart to explore these beautiful teachings. I hope this message serves you and your highest good on your own path of growth and discovery. Sending you so much peace and love, and until we meet again, I'll see you next time.